everyone, to our latest episode. I am your host, Andrew Becker of Team Lead Talks. I'm here with our guest, Lukas Iraola of the Home Keys team at Compass, headquartered in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Lukas.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So, Lukas, can you give us a little bit of a background of your team, your current structure, what you have going on?
Yeah. So we're a team of 13 here in DC, licensed in Maryland, DC, Virginia. And that's 3 staff and then 10 team members, including myself and my business partner. What else was I supposed to answer there?
What's your production level? What was it last year, and what do you think are projecting for 2023 as we enter into the third quarter here pretty soon?
Yeah, so last year we did 60 million in sales, and this year we're hoping to hit 80 million. And I think we're probably going to hit that mark. The goal is 75, but it looks like we're kind of tracking a little bit above that goal. And I have shifted out of production from last year to this year. So that would be just with the team members growing their business and then some additions to the team that we brought on as well.
Okay, cool. So congratulations on potentially not only meeting but exceeding your goal for this year. That's awesome. And congratulations for getting out of production. I know that's scary sometimes, but it's a big step. Can we take a step back and kind of just hear about how you got started in real estate and then ultimately how you evolved into a very productive, high producing team at Compass?
Yeah, for sure. So my start was I graduated in college. I moved back to the DMV, which is where I grew up, and I started a landscaping company. And the reason I started that is because my dad has owned a landscaping business for my whole life.
Okay.
So he was kind of happy with the size of his company, wasn't looking to grow it anymore and helped me start my own. So after about 2 years, I had like 150 clients that I was servicing their properties in DC and in Maryland. And I had 3 full-time employees. And then I got my real estate license.
What year was that, Lukas, when you first got your license?
That was in 2017.
2017. Okay, cool.
Yep. So the reason I got my license is because my brother was a realtor, still is a realtor. He's actually on my team now. But he was the one who first taught me about real estate. And I purchased a condo in Silver Spring using him, saw his commission check on that deal. And I was kind of like, I got this sweet thing going on with the landscaping company, but at this point, I'm kind of just managing that business,
Right.
and I'm not doing any of the physical labor anymore. And, why don't I get my license and offer free landscaping services to anybody who lists their home for sale
Well,
as
do
kind
you
of like
still
an
own,
incentive?
like to this day, do you still own your landscaping company and still do that?
So, um, interesting story, kind of the way it all played out. But so I guess, yeah, to continue along here, I was 24, 25 at the time. I was offering free landscaping to anybody whose home I listed for sale. I got a few sales done that way. I was helping some friends and family, navigate their home purchase, home sale, process, and trying to break into the real estate market and still run that landscaping business at that time in my life was too much for
Okay.
me to do both those things. So I ended up hiring a business broker, and I sold a landscaping company and transitioned into real estate full time.
Oh, wow. Congrats. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and then I kind of, slowly got my sales up and up to the point where I was selling over $20 million in real estate per year.
As a
And
solo agent at this point, right?
as a solo agent. Yep.
Okay.
And then to bring the story full circle, my dad was going to use the same business broker that I used to sell his company. I ended up purchasing it from him this past year, because his business was a little bit bigger, more established than mine was at the time I sold it. So I placed a manager, for the landscape company, and now offer again free landscaping services, for any property that myself or my team, or I guess I'm out of production now, so I'm not really doing that anymore. But any home that my team lists for sale, we can offer free landscaping to that seller.
Oh, wow. That is a very interesting story. So you started landscaping company, sold it, there was a gap, and then you bought your dad's landscaping company, and now you use that as a means to, a benefit for your potential clients before you get their homes ready for sale.
Yep, exactly. And actually, this past year, I've doubled the size of that landscaping company.
Oh, wow.
We started the year with 8 employees. We're up to 16 now. There was like 2 to 3 trucks in rotation last year, and now we're at 5 to 6. Um,
Cool. Okay.
so now I'm also trying to, you know, uh, transition the landscaping clients that are in the pipeline that we're servicing on a weekly, bi-weekly basis into real estate leads for the team members as well. So I think there's, like a few different synergies between the two companies, and just trying to tap into, different ways to help each other.
Right. There's definitely a differentiator there. So that's pretty cool. Can we go back? So you're a solo agent at this time, back in like, 17, 18. I know you have a partner, Phoenix, on your current team. Can you tell us a little bit of a background or history of how that happened and how you eventually started to build a team together?
Yeah, for sure. So I met Phoenix in 8th grade. He's been a best friend of mine for a really long time.
Okay.
And when I first got my real estate license, I was kind of trying to convince him to get his license as well. Um, he had just finished a year-long kind of like travel stint in South America and was trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life. So he was an easy target to, convince to get into real estate. But we had different paths. After getting licensed, I went the solo route, and he joined one of the, biggest and most successful teams at Compass at the time.
Okay.
So he had, like mentorship and leads and, team culture and support. And that's how he, kind of grew and developed in the space. For me, it was the solo route. I had my brother, like I mentioned, who was my realtor for my first purchase. So very different kind of, you know, entries into real estate, but I think that's been very helpful. And since we've merged, we've kind of, pulled different pieces of what we've learned, kind of like in our own rights, getting into the space. And he's been a best friend of mine, like I said, since 8th grade. So really easy to work with him. We know each other really well. There's a lot of trust. He's like a super hardworking guy, really nice guy. Great partnership. So
Cool. So,
yeah.
an interesting side note on my end, you and Phoenix met in 8th grade. So I also have a real estate team that's still, operational. And I have a business partner, Dan, and we met in 7th grade. So we've been friends for quite a while, as well. Different paths right out of college. He went into private finance. I actually worked for the government. I did 7.5 years as a civilian in the US Air Force, and then
Oh well.
transitioned into real estate. So we kind of combined at that point, and the rest is kind of history, kind of like a little bit similar to your story there. That's pretty cool. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Good
you were the
good middle school
solo.
friends, I think, is where you got to look for your business partners.
Yeah,
That's what
definitely.
that's what it sounds like.
Right, right. That's a good piece of advice for those listening out there. Think about who you knew back in middle school and then partner with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
So going back to your story though, so you became a solo agent. Phoenix joined a big team at Compass, and then you both started just producing and selling, right? And then at what point did you have that conversation, or did he have that conversation about partnering in an official capacity, and then ultimately starting your team here?
Yeah. So I kind of always had the vision of starting a team. Um, I think that began honestly when I was in the landscaping space and hired my employees and kind of saw what managing as opposed to doing some of the work yourself can do with your time. Um, so I started building out my team after I had success in the space as a solo agent. And in so I started my team in 2020. In 2022 is when, I mean, kind of the same deal as when I was trying to convince Phoenix to get his real estate license. Ever since 2020 and the start of my team, I was kind of, slowly incepting this idea of you should join with me. We should form this team.
Was that
Uh,
your goal from the start in 2020? You're trying to get Phoenix eventually to come with you?
yeah, well, I've known him forever, and he's a great agent and a great guy, and like I said, a lot of trust, easy to work with. So yeah, always thought that we would end up teaming up in some or working together in some capacity.
Yeah.
But I was going to kind of do it. I did it regardless, and then fortunately, I was able to convince him to join, but it took a few years.
Nice. So pre-Phoenix and your partnership with your best friend from middle school, who was your first hire on your team, and how did you go about finding them, and what did they do?
My first hire was my mom.
Okay. So what did she do for you?
She was retiring. She was a counselor at Gallaudet in DC.
Okay.
She worked there for, like over 30 years. And I was looking to hire kind of like an admin role for the team. And she asked if she could join. And
Cool.
I asked her, kind of what she wanted to do. She wanted to get her license, if she wanted to fill this role of what I was looking for now. And we, have a good relationship. We're able to kind of talk that through. She ended up getting licensed, but also was helping with some administrative tasks in the very beginning. And since then, I have her. Her role is kind of morphed. She's still on the team, but she doesn't do any admin work. She is primarily a referral agent for the team.
Okay.
She also, her and my dad flip homes. I've helped them kind of purchase and been an investor or partner on some of the flips that we've done together.
Mhm.
So yeah, she was my first hire, and then after that, it was a few agents.
Okay. So short of your mom being your first hire, and I'm pretty sure we all have a good idea of how you guys found each other. But your first, so your second and third and fourth, you just mentioned were agents. So
Yep.
how did you recruit uh, you know, that kind of talent to your team? What was kind of your pitch to get them to come on board?
Yeah. So in the very beginning, it was just connecting with other people who were interested in real estate, um, and having conversations with them about, what I had done with my career. I think I mentioned a little earlier that I was selling over $20 million in real estate. So I had some success in the space,
Mhm.
and, had a vision of growing a really big team. And, seeing who, since the very beginning, I've always been very focused on culture and the people that are joining the team. And looking for those people who were ambitious, who were positive, who were excited to get into the space, not afraid of rejection. Trying my best to kind of get a sense for who that's going to be and who I
Right.
can work well with uh, was what I had in mind.
And
So
were these agents that you kind of came in contact with through your everyday business, or have you hired non-agent, like people that weren't in real estate that you think might make good agents? Do you have a policy or a process around that you prefer?
yeah, so the first two were like mutual friends and connections, like friends of friends who were thinking about getting their license and then eventually did get their license. So they
Okay.
were brand new to real estate. And since then, I have shifted more towards recruiting agents who are already producing. And I honestly like, and I'm focusing more of my attention on agents who are producing at a high level,
Right.
as opposed to newer agents,
Okay.
is where I'm at now versus back then in 2020.
Yeah, and obviously there's a big difference, right? So people that have been in real estate know what real estate is about and how difficult it can be sometimes versus fresh, new to the industry that you are responsible for kind of bringing up and training, right? Can you kind of talk through how you took someone from with no experience and how you kind of built them into the real estate agent you're looking for on your team?
Yeah. So a lot of time and attention I think needs to be spent with newer agents. So, working with them on the contracts and making sure they understand everything that they need once they do have a buyer or seller that's looking to buy or to sell. Um, but I would say also just the lead generation side of things. Obviously, being a team lead yourself, that it's this business is lead generation.
Yep. Yep. Everything stops if you don't have lead gen. So let's talk about that for a little bit. On your team, can you kind of walk us through? We know kind of your structure. You have 3 or 4 admin, the rest are agents in the field. You and Phoenix are the team leads right now. What's the flow look like? How is that structured? Can you talk about how your team operates?
Yeah, for sure. So we give every agent on our team who is producing at least 7.5 million on average per year, an $800 per month marketing budget. And we help advise on how to spend that $800. A lot of what we spend on are mailing campaigns. We use a company that does handwritten mailers. Or that's one of the companies that we use, but mailing
Sure.
campaigns has been successful for us. It's kind of like the boring part of real estate that a lot of
Right.
people I think don't do, but we've leaned into.
We've had a lot of success with mailers, and we started our team back in 2013, and I think we've been mailing since 2013. When people are like, mailers are dead, you know how it's in cycles. Mailers
Yeah.
are dead, mailers are great. We just kind of kept it consistent. So yeah, I think there's something to mailers. I think it's starting to come back the last couple of years. People getting back into it.
Yeah. I mean, mailers are so funny. We sent out like 3 rounds of 1,000 mailers a few weeks ago, and we got like 2 calls. And
Yeah.
then we'll do the same and we'll get like, 30 calls.
Consistency with mailers. That's the if you're listening and you want to do mailers, you cannot give up. You almost have to budget 6 months out and just kind of like payroll. You have to make that and have it go out month over month or month after month to start to see returns.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is just business in general, but it's consistency and it's doing the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
Obviously, you have to look at your data and see what's working and what's not, and make sure that you're not spending money that doesn't make sense to spend. But yeah, just like you said, I mean, since 2013, obviously there's a lot of data to go off of there. Mailers
Right.
work. You just have to do them and kind of just
Yep.
trust the process, and then make sure you have good follow-up systems with the leads that you are getting.
Exactly. Tweak the messaging, make it do A/B testing, see what's working, kind of just compete one against the other over and over and over again. And if you have one that is returning more, keep it until another one beats it, or just keep, replacing the B from the A/B split test and seeing what works. So the great strategy. So let's go back to the marketing aspect of your team and lead gen. So you give all of your agents $800 a month and kind of coach or guide them through how they're going to spend it. And then is that strictly for direct mail, or are they allowed to, do Instagram, boosts or anything that they want around that $800?
Anything that they want. As long as, and I mean, yeah, we're talking it through before we pay for any marketing budget spend. But I'm pretty, I'd like to say, creative and open to talk through anything that any of our agents want to do.
Okay.
And as long as we're, again, collecting data around what works and what doesn't, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm kind of loose there, but I think that that also gives, it empowers the agents on our team, and I think also different agents have different strengths. I'm looking to bring on an agent who's at Redfin right now. He sold over 200 homes, has 200 past clients, and I think he should spend his money on a client appreciation event
Mhm.
initially, to welcome all of his clients to Compass and to our team and to see them, and like, have that touch point,
Right.
and then to focus on some reoccurring gifts for those past clients, or like things that will bring them into more of a community and family feel, as opposed to his business model at Redfin, which was close the deal and don't really talk to the client again, or have
Right.
very infrequent touch points. But that's going to be a very different strategy than someone who is really interested in the investment space and wants to send out cash mailers because they're also looking to flip their first home, or they're they have family members in the space, or in the investment space, or XYZ. So I think it just depends on the agent and what their goals are and what their strengths are,
Mhm.
where
Okay.
they're at in their business. Yeah.
So you have these individual meetings with how many agents were there? Around, you said eight or nine, not
Um,
counting your support staff. Is that
yeah, there are 8.
eight right now? Okay, so each of the eight come up with their own plan and then they go out and do it, right? So when the leads start to come in, how are they coming in and who are they going to and how are they worked? And from a team lead perspective of yourself and Phoenix, how are you tracking, like you said, what's working, what's not, and ultimately seeing what is returning?
Yeah, so that's something that it's still kind of a work in progress, to be honest with you. Um, I think that long term for our business, we will have to have a lesser budget for that monthly marketing campaign per agent, and a higher budget for trackable leads for the team itself.
Mhm.
But right now, being a newer team that is growing pretty quickly, and also being able to get a lot of data and find out what works with that budget and what does not, I'm a little bit, like I said, looser with playing this game with the agents on our team and kind of seeing what works and what doesn't. So I'd say that going back to culture and making sure that it's people that I trust and I'm comfortable with, and kind of setting those expectations around, this isn't something that will be a forever thing, but
Right.
let's find out what is going to work and what is not,
Okay.
is where we're at now.
Gotcha. And then when, let's say, I'm an agent on your team and I just do mailers in a certain neighborhood. When someone calls that, is it going to me, or do you have like an inside sales agent or someone to answer the phone to set appointments? Can you walk us through that process from a direct response phone call?
Yeah. So right now it goes directly to the agent.
Okay.
Um, I've networked with a lot of other team leads that are bigger than my team is right now,
Mhm.
and I hired an ISA. I had an ISA last year for about 4 months. I only got one deal done with that ISA, and that was someone who had worked on another bigger team in the DMV for a few years prior to joining my team. So it wasn't someone who didn't have any experience, or like wasn't hitting the phones. I was tracking their outbound calls, and it was around 100 a day.
Mhm.
So from what I've heard from other successful team leads, is when you're at a point where you can have an ISA that's receiving those inbound calls and is incentivized to then dish out those leads to the members of their teams, um, you can have a lot of success. But so that's on my mind. That's something that I do want to do, but based on where we're at now, and just with growing this landscaping company, growing the team. I don't have the capacity to hire an ISA and train them and make sure that that system is in place. But I do think that that is ultimate. I mean, it's going to be better for our team because we'll know exactly, how
Right.
many calls we get right now. For instance, if we get a call off a mailer and it's going directly to an agent and they miss that phone call, I'm not able to track that.
So
You
how
know?
do you, let's talk about that real quick, like processes. I'm an agent. I send out a postcard to a neighborhood again. Am I putting my cell phone number on it? Or how is
Yes.
it, okay, so individual cell phone numbers are going on there. So if I'm in a meeting or, asleep or whatever at night, the calls are just going unanswered and there's no way to track.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So,
Yeah. So yeah. So obviously I'm talking through the strategy around what that money is being spent on. And then I'm letting the agents know when the mailing campaign, if they're doing a mailing campaign, when that goes out and when
mhm,
they should be expecting to receive phone calls and to make sure they're following up with any missed calls that don't leave a voicemail so that
okay,
we're trying our best to track that. Um, and so that they know kind of when they can expect to receive those calls.
sure.
Yeah.
They're sort of self-reporting back to you.
Yep.
So what, like every week, every month? How are you tracking that?
Well, so mailing campaigns is one of the things that they're spending that, marketing budget on.
Hmm.
And so if they were to do a mailing campaign and they were to spend their budget on that at the usually the way that it's been set up is that'll be sent out around the 15th of the month. At the end of the month is when we strategize on the next month's campaign. And
Hmm.
I'll ask them, like, how did this past month go? What were the amount of calls that you received? Kind of what leads do you have? What can we do to, get them to the settlement table? Like
Sure.
talking some strategy around that.
Basically convert, like, what are we doing to convert the ones we haven't converted yet?
Exactly.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you do that on a weekly cadence with your team? Is that
That is on a monthly cadence
okay?
because the marketing budget is per month.
Per month. Okay. So agents are responsible for inbound calls and essentially setting their own appointments, going on the appointment and trying to convert them.
Yes, and that's also the reason why the agents on the team that are getting that budget are experienced agents who have done at least 7.5 million worth of sales,
Mhm.
so that it's not a new agent who isn't necessarily going to know how to navigate that conversation when they get an inbound call.
Right.
Maybe they're newer to sales, they don't know follow-up strategies or techniques. So again, there is definitely a component of trust, which is
Right.
why, like the culture and the hiring process and everything that goes into, bringing on people that we want to bring on is so important.
Yeah, definitely. So I know you're not in production now, but you were a couple of years ago. 8 agents, that's a big number to kind of track and make sure everyone is getting the help they need. How did you balance that when you were, well, we're talking when you were in production now, because being in production too and doing 20 million plus yourself, that's very, you're staying busy, right? So how are you leveraging your time or maybe team members and focusing on helping your current employees or agents in the field convert, because you got a lot of stuff up in the air, right? So how did you do all that?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I'm very busy, but I love being busy. Um, I try to implement systems that we can put in place and kind of set and forget. And I think that's what I do just in business in general. And the
Mhm.
more of those that you have, and the more that everyone also has been communicated with about what those plans and systems are, the better. Um, I'll give you a few examples. So when I'm onboarding a new agent, we just brought on a new agent 3 weeks ago now. We have a weekly meeting alternating between myself and Phoenix for the first month and a half on the team to make sure that that onboarding process goes smoothly.
Mhm.
We have a weekly team meeting every Tuesday at 9 a.m. We have a quarterly check-in with every new agent to make sure that the business plan that we help them create when they first join the team is
Mhm.
tracking. And if it's not tracking, what we can do so that it does get back on track. Or
Okay.
if we need to change or tweak any of those goals, that's a time and place to, tweak or change those goals.
Mhm.
So it's a lot to manage for sure, but again, I think having those systems and touch points in place are very helpful. So I would say that's kind of how I've done it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, getting organized and having those processes that are sort of set in stone but flexible, that is how you kind of spotlight what's working internally on your team or not working. So you can make educated or better decisions on how to fix them, right? When things kind of go wrong, as in real estate, tends to happen every now and then. Nothing's perfect, but I agree with that. So okay, so now you're out of production. What's the daily, schedule for Lucas look like now that you're not doing sales for you?
Yeah. That's a tricky one. I'm like I said, I doubled the size of my landscaping business just this year alone. And we brought on, of those 8 agents, 4 of those have come on this year as well.
Okay.
Um, the agents that we brought on are all, for I think 3 out of the 4 of them are all higher producing agents that have a lot of experience
Hmm.
in the business. So there's a lot of change. And I know I'm repeating myself, but just going back to what I've said before, for both companies, I'm really, really focused, and I'm slow moving on hires. And although it might sound like I'm not, but hires and culture is huge.
Right.
So I'm talking to new agents every day of the week and starting conversations with them about where their business is at, what their goals are, where they'd like to be, if they're a team lead or an individual agent or on a team, not happy, wanting some sort of a change, and seeing what that might look like if we were to team up, if they were to join.
Okay.
So a lot of my time right now is spent on recruiting agents, but also because I had kind of a big pop this year of bringing on new agents. The past month and a half, I would say I was focused a little bit less on recruiting and more on stabilizing and making sure the agents we brought on were, you
Right.
know, happy and supported and felt like they were in a position where they would have a lot of success with us.
Hmm.
So it really fluctuates what
Right.
I'm doing. And that's
Okay.
just kind of like my feel and pulse on, who's on the team and if they're, doing what they should be doing, and making sure I'm doing what I should be doing too.
Sure. So constantly networking. You always want to be in a position where you're not in a urgent need to hire, right? Because then you kind of tend to rush things, and culture is very big for you guys. It's obvious, and you don't want to hire the wrong person, right? So you're always talking to people, and then when the timing is right, you see if you can, you know, get someone else to join the team, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're doing that every day. You're kind of monitoring. You congratulations on doubling your agent size this year, by the way. That's pretty cool. Uh,
Thanks.
so that's been awesome. What what are your plans for growing the team? Where do you think you're going to take it? You mentioned you're kind of stabilizing now, but do you have long-term goals for how big you want your team getting?
Yeah. So, I guess something that I've learned about myself, I feel like this is true probably for a lot of people, is, you have like a master plan, and then like a year later, it's completely different.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I guess prefacing my answer with, right now, the thought is to get my team to around 25 to 30 people. I'd like to purchase a office space to run the business out of.
Mhm.
Aside from, right now, we're running out of Compass's brokerage. They have a lot of offices in the DMV. but owning real estate obviously is a great investment.
Right. Yep.
And I think having our own office space and culture would be great. And from there, I think reassessing and seeing if opening another branch would make sense, or again, kind of like stabilizing and reassessing where that business is at, see where the landscaping company is at. So I think taking it like one step at a time, at least for me,
Yep.
I can kind of make more sense of.
Cool. And you mentioned 25, around 25, 30. Are those agents, or do you also see your support staff growing as part of that as well?
That would be a combination of agents and staff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you have this team now. You have great traction, it sounds like, to blow through your goals for this year. Going back to day one of your team, I always like to sort of ask this of everyone that I have on the show. What's the one lesson that you've been managing a team for quite some time now and growing successfully? What's the one thing that you would like to tell yourself when you got the idea to start a team that you wish you knew?
Um, I think that the recruiting of agents, I first started, like I mentioned, with agents who were not experienced, and I had to train up. And I think that hiring and targeting agents that already have a production level that is um like we're looking for 5 million and above.
Mhm.
But somewhere where they've sold real estate, they know what they're doing. They can kind of help either a buyer or a seller get from start to finish,
Right.
and focusing on business strategies and systems and how to implement them and really take their business to the next level is what I would have told myself to focus on earlier on,
Mhm.
because a lot of those agents who are already a bit more established, they're a bit more established. So,
Right.
so they're going to take some time to make a decision. They're going to really try to vet you as a team lead to make sure that you're going to give them what they need to, justify moving their business from wherever they are to your team. So, some of these conversations that I've now had in the past year have come to fruition this year. Some of them I'm having, today, yesterday, this week, this past week, and I think that they might join my team in 2024 or 2025,
Right.
because it just is a process. So starting it earlier on would be the advice to my younger
So
stuff.
networking with kind of the idea in the back of your head of also seeing if they would be a good fit for your team and vice versa as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Networking is important. Obviously, if the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the next best time is today. Same thing for networking and having your network set up for success if and when you're trying to make a move down the line. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, Lukas, I know you're a very busy man, but I really appreciate your time today, and congratulations again on all of your success. And thank you for stopping by.
Yeah. Appreciate the time. It was good talking to you.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye bye.